I was like, hey, I build computers for all my friends. I build computers for clients. I build computers for these guys on Craigslist. I built so many computers. Please let me be in Tech Lab. And it worked, yeah. So we get in, and then the first couple of weeks we learn about networking. But then this guy, he shows us how to make Ethernet cables on like month 2. And I was like, dude, what? You can make Ethernet cables? I didn't know you could make Ethernet cables. That's so freaking cool. Because all of a sudden there was a product where before it was like a mystified, it was a tech product. I didn't know how to I didn't know where Ethernet cables came from. I didn't know what was inside of an Ethernet cable. I was like, dude, what? I thought they were like from the magic China land where they just like had magic. And the magic made the cables, but apparently you can like actually make Ethernet cables, and it's like super easy because apparently it has to be easy so that people in networking know how to do it. So he shows us how to make Ethernet cables. Something clicks in my head. I'm like, dude, what? I gotta start a company. We're gonna make Ethernet cables. That's all we're gonna do is just make Ethernet cables. And I hadn't read Peter Thiel's 0 to 1 book yet. So that was a book I was reading right at the time. And if you haven't seen the video on that book, it'll be right below here. But essentially what Thiel talks a lot about, I go over it in that book. And those are some of the underlying principles that now in retrospect, it looks a little bit silly to do it. But at the time it was like, dude, we're gonna make Ethernet cables. So I already had like a background in e-commerce, and I knew a lot about like Amazon, especially with Fulfilled by Amazon, which was just the program to be in. That's what I've got the book in. That's what I've got 9 to noon. I mean, it's just crushing it. And the really cool thing with that, Plaid! I like Plaids. The thing with that was, I was like, okay, let's make like 100 Ethernet cables. We're gonna ship them to Amazon. Amazon is gonna be the bomb. They're gonna fulfill it for us. They're gonna crush it. And so that was the plan. That was what we did. So I got some guys, 6 guys. I was like, hey guys, let's make Ethernet cables. I'll pay you guys a minimum wage. And it was like, why the heck not? And it was so cool because I got the teacher at Tech Lab, Mr. Cox, he let me, take every Friday. We made Fridays Ethernet Cable Friday. So instead of reading right at the time and basically for the entire duration of the course, we just read a networking textbook and learned about networking and computer systems and data systems and really freaking cool stuff. I mean, especially with blockchain technologies, that networking knowledge is invaluable. Because you're learning essentially exactly how to build computer infrastructure systems and data centers, which is literally the core of blockchain technologies and decentralized asset management. So definitely was a background that I wanted so bad. And I had to make sacrifices. There were a lot of classes that would look good on a college resume that I didn't take and I wasn't able to take because I wanted the space to take Tech Lab and I wanted the freedom to do what I actually wanted and do what I was passionate about rather than something where it's they offered kids could take college courses at the local community college and instead of actually doing what people cared about, they were just taking college courses in art or and it's not art they didn't care about art. It was just to get that college credit and they had a higher GPA, and it was I don't want to do that, right? Why would I go, first of all, waste my time driving back and forth to a campus where, my school had a lot of APs, which I was fortunate. And it was none of the classes that I really wanted to take were at that college. It wasn't engineering, there wasn't physics stuff. And then at my school, they had AP physics. So, everything that made sense. And I had to make some really tough decisions on the classes I was taking because I was going into last year high school and stuff had to be cut. I could only fit 7 classes. Later, I learned people had literally 5 classes or 4 classes or 3 classes, and I was like, what? But I got to fill my schedule up and absorb as much as I can, which I don't know. Maybe it was a good idea, maybe it wasn't. It's done now, AP test, whatever, who cares? But the point was, this was a commitment. I made a commitment to this singular class because it wasn't a credit class. It was a pass-fail, but it didn't count as a point on my GPA. It was basically a study hall. And I was like, dude, what? I would never take a study hall. But that's essentially what I was getting credit for by doing this class. But it was totally okay with it because I was getting such a tremendous real-world value from it and applicability in the marketplace that just made sense. So, back to Ethernet cables. The point with it was, I got these guys, oh my god, it was so much fun. So we ordered 1,000 feet of Ethernet cable from China, or not from China, it was from I think, a US distributor based, I think like Monoprice, and you basically, right, all you do is you order the cable in bulk, and once you get it, you can just chop it up. So we decided, we did our market research, and we found that on Amazon, the best profit to, you know, like price to ratio of all the Ethernet cables that was selling at the time was essentially the 10-foot cables. So, excuse me, we decided, you know, in our genius at the time, that we're just gonna make 10-foot cables exclusively black 10-foot cables. So we bought the exact number. We bought 100 cable endings, we bought 200 cable endings, one for both sides of the cable. And then we said, we're not gonna make any mistakes, we're gonna crush it, we're just gonna destroy. We're gonna make all these Ethernet cables, everyone's gonna love it, instant success, bam shabam, we're gonna crush. And that was not exactly how it went. What really happened at first, so we get all the cables, we get the guys, and we're reeling this stuff out. I mean, just cables coming out. We had our sweet system on where, you know, we would draw out the 10 feet, and then we would just align the cable, cut the cable, and it was so cool because at the same time I was like researching what are factories in China doing to manufacture Ethernet cables. And the coolest thing was it was the same thing we were doing. And it was like, whoa, you're telling me that marketplace opportunity wherever you are is similar in any regards to your baseline standing. And that was such an eye-opening experience because it was like literally wherever you are in positioning. And the point is to just get into it and start, because literally like the only fancy machines that these multi-billion-dollar Ethernet, or I wouldn't say billion, I don't know how big the Ethernet cable business is. I think according to some of the research tools on Amazon, it's like maybe they're making $1 million per cable. It's not a big deal. The point with it was the difference between us and these factories in China was like basically nothing. Like they had, some of the really good ones had these machines that would punch it up instead of using an actual crimp tool that we were using, and that was just to cut off the cable endings and secure it. And then the other difference was that they had these machines that would actually like plaster on a shielding, or not a shielding, but like a little boot. That's what they call it. They call it a boot. It's the thing at the end of the cable. It's like rubber, and it connects the cable part to the plastic part, because, you know, before you do that, you have to actually cut the plastic open, and then you cut it open, you take all the wires out, you arrange them. And, you know, in China, they would just do that with like, I don't know, really poorly paid Chinese, really poorly paid people. I was paying guys minimum wage. So our costs were higher on labor because we were paying minimum wage. Well, it's a little different too, because you gotta understand like living costs. So there's a whole lot of different aspects to consider. But in Peter Thiel's book, and in the video I made on that, he talks a lot about like creating a new market, and specifically how, and this is the same thing with Blue Ocean, another book I'm reading right now. There'll be a video on that soon. If I'm done with it, I'll actually link it below here. Blue Ocean Strategy, they talk about the same thing. It's like, you can't go into a market where there is an infallible amount of competition, right? So if you really, really want to drop your entire camera, and by drop your entire camera, what I really mean is crush it. If you want to crush it, you've got to create a new space, not necessarily like a whole new industry. Like that's probably a bad idea because no one's done it before. And if no one's done it before, there's likely a reason. If there's not a reason, maybe, you know, be a lost leader in it. But, you know, the biggest thing with it is, you know, you've got to be doing something very unique that has been proven through history. But at the same time, there's not like literally thousands of people on Amazon selling Ethernet cables. So the margins are essentially rock bottom because you're fighting to the bottom. And instead of having, you know, a negotiating leverage or ability, you've just really got like your price, because you know, something Russell Brunson talks about is some other books I've read on here that I'll make some quality videos for you guys soon, is about creating an offer and turning your offer into something of tremendously more value than any of your competitors, and then using that as a way to go from the lowest price in a competitive bidding war on a commodity such as the 10-foot Ethernet cable to being the highest price by giving a surreally valuable offer. You can't really do that with Ethernet cables. It's tough. It's a tough sell. It's a tough sell. We didn't have complementary computer products. So anyway, so back to the story. So we were sending these Ethernet, so we cut them out and we put them in 10-foot segments. We did the ends of the cables so that they were like actually cables, and then we tested every single cable, which is what they had to do. You got to make sure you got good quality. And then after we tested everything, what we did was we got a whole sheet of labels, and I used the sheet of labels to actually like print out labels for every single one of these using our Amazon like barcode, and it was the most fun thing because before that I was like, what is that? But it was cool because it was like a real product. Like, whoa, we went from nothing to, in a matter of we spent like maybe 2 weeks, not 2 weeks, 2 months ordering all this stuff. And then having like 6 guys like chow through an hour a day of making Ethernet cables, which is a tremendously tedious process. My fingers, everyone's fingers got a little messed up with that. But we were all in there, we're doing the grunt work, we were having fun, and it was such a great experience because now you're understanding, how to bring value to the marketplace, especially with product development, take that to the marketplace. So we build it, and we have all the cables done. We label all of them. We were on our final day. It was so cool. It was like the power of deadlines. If you guys have read, what's the book? Think and Grow Rich. Oh my God, I can't tell you how many times I talk about that book on this channel. Check out the video on it below. But the cool thing with that is it's the power deadlines, and it's something that's talked about so much. Like our deadline was December 1st to get all the cables done and then shipped to Amazon so that they could fulfill them in time for the holiday season, because everybody wants to buy Ethernet cables at Christmas, right? Am I right? That was my there's Blaine. That was my prediction for the whole market sentiment. So we decided, you know what? We're gonna do it, we're gonna crush it, we're gonna get these Ethernet cables out there. Everyone is gonna love it. It's gonna be the best Christmas gift ever. Because our cables were of the highest quality. I mean, we definitely didn't skimp on materials. We did our research in the market. We looked at what people were selling, and we found like that there were bad suppliers and good suppliers and different quality of cables. So when we send them to Amazon, we get this giant box, and we put all the cables in it. We go to Amazon, the Seller Central, to fulfill it. And dude, this box must have been like 30 pounds. I don't know, it was like raw iron and then like rubber, and that was essentially what Ethernet cable was, plus like plastic. And we go on Amazon, we weigh it, and we enter the dimensions, and I kid you not, these guys literally charged us like $13 to ship this massive box. It took like 2 to 3 people to carry into the post office. We ship it with UPS for $13 to the Amazon Fulfillment Center in Ohio, I think it was Ohio. And oh my God, I couldn't believe it, first of all, because to individually ship each of these cables, it was essentially like $2 or $3 per cable, which is like $300 total. And Amazon was doing that. They were doing our fulfillment, and they're still doing our fulfillment. If you want to buy an Ethernet cable, link below. You guys could totally get these Ethernet cables on Amazon. But what they were doing is they had this insane discount on the shipping rate, which was just super cool. And then we ship it to them, and they put it in their warehouse, and then get this, we're scaling our influence because these guys took care of the packaging, took care of the storage, took care of the processing, took care of the fulfillment, took care of the returns, took care of the customer service. They took care of every single tedious thing we could do besides making the product. They were fulfilling it for like, I think $250. Like, it was absurd. They were getting 2-day shipping, which was a better quality service than we could buy at public rates. We can't afford to, that was like a $7 option if we were gonna mail it with USPS or UPS. It was a small, light item, and they're giving us the packaging and the label and the fulfillment. That's time, that's expertise, that's paper or labels or ink that's not coming out of my pocket anymore, and it's getting automated on a much more efficient, much more specialized processing system, where these guys were getting the whole thing done for $250 when it probably would have cost me, give or take $5 in material, manpower, efforts, expertise, training, long-term distribution of like missing stuff, and then just mostly time. It was my time or someone else's time, and they were getting it done profoundly more effectively. And then they charged like $1 for the Amazon fee to like be on Amazon, or $40 a month. We started with $40 a month, and I'll tell you that story in just a minute. But the cool thing with so it was $1 for the Amazon, and then it was like, I don't know, 70 cents for the referral for the affiliate program that they run, and we were netting like 210 a cable. 210 a cable, and it was like, I think $1.20 per material cost for 10-foot cable when we were buying 1,000 cable bulk. And then I think it was like 75, 95 cents in labor. So we had, before labor, pretty freaking sweet margin. I think it was like 10 to 20. I don't remember the numbers exactly. It was definitely like a 65% margin before labor. And I think 10 to 20 after. So we're doing like maybe like 15% margin on the cables, which was cool. Like, whoa, look, business, right? And you know, it was nothing new to me. Like, I'd done spreadsheets and tables. I launched Monero ads like 6-7 months before the whole Ethernet cable thing. So it was super fun stuff. But it was like understanding physical product development and fulfillment, and then using that in e-commerce is one way, but also understanding in a fundamental level how market development works and how you can take something, especially take an idea, and just act on it and make it happen. You know, it was an impulse. It was like, you know what, we're gonna make Ethernet cables. And for 2 straight months, all we did was make Ethernet cables. I said Friday we came in and do it. What I forgot to mention is that we would come in before school every single day, all 6 of us, and just make Ethernet cables. And we just powered through it, chucked through it. It's like an hour a day. And you know, it was super fun work. It was a lot of work, but it was so cool because these guys were they were crushing it. And they were learning, you know, about like fundamental basics of developing and then delivering something in the marketplace, so that, you know, you're essentially going from nothing to something. And that's really powerful stuff. If you can find an opportunity to really develop a manufactured product on a shoestring budget and then do it, you know, we didn't make a whole lot, because you got to understand, right? Like, if you look at it from a fundamental business perspective of you know, blue ocean, red ocean, or 0 to 1. Like, we weren't providing particularly much value in the marketplace, which makes sense. I mean, we were doing what everyone else was doing, and our whole strategy with it was, hey, we'll just be the cheapest, and that didn't freaking work, because Amazon can pretty much outprice anyone, you know, and they've have such large quantity, and then also they've got, you know, the preferential treatment of their, I don't know how they do it, but their Ethernet cables are so cheap. We actually priced ours beneath theirs. So like, our Ethernet cables were cheaper than Amazon's, which were the cheapest ones, except ours were cheaper and the same color and of higher quality. But the difference was that the ranking, right? Now we had to get into this whole new field of, how do I get my Ethernet cable to show up on the first page of Amazon when people search for Ethernet cable? And then how do I get people to buy said Ethernet cable when it gets on Amazon, if they see it, if they even get to it, because we just didn't have people seeing it. So then you get into this whole new field of like Amazon advertising, right? So we were paying to have our Ethernet cables as one of the first things that would come up when you would look up Ethernet cable, which is a pretty competitive search term on Amazon. But we did that, and then what we found was, like, we would spend $1 on advertising, and then we would make like 95 cents. And then that 95 cents, we would net like, I don't know, 20 cents. So we were losing, just bleeding money on ads, which obviously didn't last very long. And then it didn't really make sense to put ads on any other networks, or like what are you gonna do, advertise an Ethernet cable, right? It just didn't make sense to do that anywhere except on Amazon, where people are like searching for buying Ethernet cable. So, and that was like 95 in sales, and then you got to understand material costs, fulfillment costs, referral fees, Amazon fees. A lot of these fees that you don't think about at the beginning, now they start to pop up. Now you start to understand the validity and the quality of something in the marketplace, where before it was like, oh, you know, we're just gonna make cables. But then once you really go and really start to do it, and this is why it's important, you know, to start, you know, with a sample of something that's not ridiculously large. We didn't go out, you know, we might have spent like $200 on buying a bunch of Ethernet cable materials. And it was cool because we were able to leverage the materials that we already had at the tech lab. They had a bunch of Ethernet cable materials, which is super sweet, because we just used that. We didn't have to pay like $80 for the tester and the crimpers and all these Ethernet cable materials that you need to use to like actually make an Ethernet cable, which is tough. You know, making Ethernet cables kind of sucks. But was cool. I liked it. It was fun. So we learned, I learned a lot about that, and then really insightful experience. And I can't really, it's tough to. All right, look, here's the deal. If you've got an idea for a marketable idea, or something that you want to do, okay, and you know that it's a valid idea, you see people doing it in the marketplace, especially if you're starting out, if you can test stuff out like that, like, that's an invaluable business experience, and it's something that that I'll see myself doing for a long time. And it's super cool because, I'm going to learn that. I'm going to remember that when I have an idea of something I want to do. It's like, does this align with my core principles? Does this align with like the marketplace value? Does this make sense to do given the conditions? And that's something you learn through experience. It's something that I'm giving you guys. I failed with. I didn't fail with it. Like, we sold Ethernet cables, I think we sold like 25 out of the 100. So, and they're still selling. People buy Ethernet cables, and if we're lucky, if you guys need an Ethernet cable, just link below. It's like the cheapest Ethernet cable and the highest quality Ethernet cable. But it's tough to convey that, especially when you don't have momentum behind something. So you learn about the power, specifically not something I was thinking about at the time, but now that I'm getting into this online marketing space, the power of traffic. We didn't have any traffic because we weren't on the first page of Amazon, so no one saw us, and the only way to really get to us was to search for Monerads, the company name, and no one searches for a company name. So it was interesting, and it was critical to developing an understanding of what the marketplace values and how you really have to conform to that, so that if you're going to succeed, you succeed in the ways that your customer wants you to succeed, and you deliver a product in a way that your customer wants you to deliver, so that you can have just a more profound impact on their life and give them what they want. Because that's the real goal with it, is to sell people what they want. People wanted to go on Amazon, look up Ethernet cable, and just buy the cheapest one, or the first thing that comes up. It's all about convenience, right? So it wasn't something where we had an edge on that. And then if you go over to other sites that are more bargain based, like eBay, first of all, you got to do all the fulfillment on that. But the different thing with it is there's literally thousands and thousands of people just drop shipping Ethernet cables from China. So I thought by taking in the costs and by producing it in-house, we would have better margins, better quality, better standards. But it really turned out that the individuals who already specialized in Ethernet cable manufacturing were doing a tremendous job of it. And there wasn't particularly large monetary incentive to go into the marketplace and enter as a competitor, because it was just such a high barrier to entry, and that high barrier to entry meant that startups can fail pretty quickly. I say startups pretty loosely. I mean, we were making Ethernet cables, but you learn a lot from that, and now you've got this whole new vision and viewpoint of maybe you should do what you're good at, and you should crush what you're good at, and you should take it to a new level where you're exclusively focusing on that, and not getting distracted by other side projects. So it's really cool stuff, and I hope you guys enjoy it. And specifically, I want one thing to do is, if you guys haven't read or you haven't seen my video on Peter Thiel's book 0 to 1, that's a profoundly impactful book, especially if you're interested in having any kind of business or success online, or any marketing schema where you're trying to deliver a product or a service, or you're an affiliate for a product or a service, or you're sharing something with someone where your profits come directly from the marketplace. That's an invaluable book to read. I'll link my video below, or wherever this is, so that you guys can check out that one on YouTube, because that's kind of something that really grasps all of the fundamental principles from this video and this lesson and this experience, and exemplifies it in a text. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you. See ya. Bye bye.